Overall this season, Steph Curry hasn't really looked like the Steph Curry we've come to expect over the past decade. But last night, Curry showed us that he's still that dude. Curry was unstoppable, dropping a season-high 37 points. He also grabbed 6 rebounds, dished 9 assists, and showcased his defensive chops with a steal and 2 blocks. His clutch 10-0 scoring run late in the game secured the win, and his iconic night-night celebration sealed the moment. Overall though, last night's showdown between the Warriors and Mavericks was absolute fireworks. This was the game to watch, and it wasn't just because the Warriors were back on their home court. The return of Klay Thompson after all these years in the Bay, that had the entire arena buzzing with energy. But the game itself, it was one for the books. The Warriors took down the Mavericks in an electrifying contest, finishing with a score of 120 to 117 and putting themselves in the top spot in the Western Conference stand. The night kicked off with a heartfelt tribute to Klay, and Dallas knew exactly who to target. They ran their first play through him, and Klay found himself face to face with none other than Steph Curry. Klay made the first mark, drawing a foul and sinking both free throws, putting Dallas up early. But after that, Curry was laser focused, and he played like a man on a mission. The game was intense from start to finish. Dallas got a jump start and took an early lead, but Golden State was ready to respond. They rattled off a quick 9-0 run, and the crowd erupted when Draymond Green pulled off one of the most jaw-dropping defensive plays we've seen this season. That defensive energy flowed right into the Warriors' offense. Curry and Luka were going shot for shot, both ending the first quarter with 12 points each. At that point, Golden State held a narrow lead, 33-27, but it was anyone's game, and Curry made one of his famous circus shots over Klay, keeping the Warriors close as they went into halftime, down 63-59. Then came the third quarter, and anyone who knows the Warriors knows they're a different animal in the third. They tied the game up fast, and Curry lit up the floor. Golden State went on a blazing 16-0 run, taking a 13-point lead. The Dubs were in control, but just as it seemed like they might run away with it, Dallas answered back with their own 10-0 run. The Warriors weren't having any of it though. They ended the quarter ahead, 96-89, outscoring Dallas by 11 points in that frame. But the fourth quarter, that's when the real action hit. With everything on the line, Curry took over. He capped off a 10-0 run, scoring every point himself, and celebrated with his classic night-night move, and Golden State walked off the court with an incredible victory. Like I mentioned before though, this was Curry's night. He was the absolute star of the night. His season-high 37 points, a 10-point explosion in those final minutes, that was Curry at his best. Every single shot felt like a dagger, and he brought the kind of intensity that reminded everyone just how much of a force he is. Draymond was everywhere on both ends, with 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Not a single turnover. He did it all, pushing the Warriors forward and keeping them in the game when they needed it most. Wiggins, Melton, and rookie Trace Jackson-Davis also shined, while Kevon Looney came off the bench with a monster 11-rebound performance, including 9 offensive boards. Looney's presence on the glass was key to the Warriors' dominance down low. Thompson also had a solid night, finishing with 22 points and going 6 for 12 from deep. The crowd had his back, showing him the love he's earned over 13 seasons. But the fans let him hear it too, chanting airball after a late miss. That mix of respect and rivalry just added to the drama of the night, especially with Klay back in the spotlight. Luka finished with 31 points and Irving had 21, both putting up big numbers to keep Dallas in the game. Their shot making was something else, and it took everything Golden State had to hold them off. This game was about more than just another win. You could feel the energy in every play, every moment. The Warriors looked fired up, playing with a level of intensity that showed just how much this game mattered to them. Whether it was Klay's return, the chance to go up against the Mavericks, or just proving that they're still a team to beat in the West, Golden State came out with a fire. With this win, they're now 9-2 on the season and started off the in-season tournament with a bang. This was one of those games that reminds you why the NBA is so special. When Curry's in this kind of zone, there's almost nothing that can stop him. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Curry. This season as a whole, Steph Curry's start to the season is a bit different from what we're used to seeing from him, and it's interesting to break down why. Right now, he's averaging around 23.9 points per game, which is strong by any standard, but lower than his typical numbers. Last season, for example, he averaged 26.4 points, so this is a bit of a dip for a guy like Steph. He's currently ranked 21st in points per game, which is a drop, especially for someone who's usually near the top of the list. But that doesn't mean he's slowing down. It almost feels like he's building up to something, just warming up before going off. Now looking at his efficiency, he's still shooting at an elite level. He's hitting 48.1% from the field, ranking him around 60th in the league, which is still incredibly strong. And from three-point range, he's hitting 43.2%, right up there with his career averages. Last season, he shot 41% from beyond the arc, so he's actually a bit more efficient from deep right now. These percentages show that even if his points per game haven't skyrocketed yet, his shot selection and accuracy are still top tier. It's like he's taking fewer shots, but making each one count a bit more. For Curry, this feels like the kind of steady start that could turn into a scoring explosion once he's fully in rhythm. Then, let's talk about his playmaking. Right now, he's averaging 6.6 assists per game, which is a slight boost from last year's 5.1. He's ranked 14th in the league for assists, and that says a lot. You can tell he's looking to involve his teammates more, setting them up and orchestrating the flow of the offense rather than taking on all the scoring himself. With his assists on the rise, it's clear he's balancing his own scoring with creating opportunities for others, which might be key for the Warriors to find consistency early in the season. I think this is a huge part of what he's doing right now, finding that balance between scoring and setting up his teammates. He's not just a shooter, he's a playmaker. And this season, his assists seem to show he's thinking about the long haul, building chemistry with his team. On the rebounding side, he's bringing down around 4.8 boards per game, which is pretty close to his career average of 4.7. Nothing too surprising there, but it's always impressive how Curry, at his size, can make an impact on the boards. Last season, he averaged 4.5 rebounds, so he's slightly above that right now. This consistency shows how active he is all over the court, not just when he's scoring or setting up a play, but also grabbing rebounds and giving the team extra possessions. He's one of those rare players who makes his presence felt in every aspect of the game, even if his scoring doesn't always jump off the stat sheet. It's like every time he's on the floor, he's adding something extra to the game, whether it's points, assists, or rebound. One really interesting stat this season, for the first time in his career, Curry's played fewer than 30 minutes in consecutive games to start the season. That's pretty unheard of for him. He's usually logging big minutes from game one, setting the pace for the Warriors and leading the charge. But this year, it looks like they're easing him into the season. Maybe the coaching staff is trying to preserve him a bit, knowing they'll need him fresh as the season goes on. And the crazy thing is, it's working. The Warriors are undefeated so far, and they've been winning big, and Curry doesn't even have to go all out yet. This approach of pacing him early could be a huge advantage for the Warriors later. They're not relying on him to carry the entire load from the jump. Instead, they're giving other players room to step up and contribute while Curry finds his groove. The depth they're building could make them even more dangerous once Curry is fully unleashed. Imagine what could happen if he's this efficient already, even before hitting his stride. And the fact that they're winning big while letting Curry take it a little slower tells me this team might be thinking about the long-term strategy. They're setting themselves up to peak later, which might be exactly what Curry needs to stay fresh and explosive down the stretch. Curry might not be leading in points per game like he usually does, but his impact is still massive. He's shooting efficiently, assisting at a high rate, and still grabbing rebounds, all while playing fewer minutes and pacing himself. To me, it feels like he's about to hit that next gear. And once he does, we could see some monster games from him this season. It's like he's holding back just a little, maybe saving some of that fire for the right moment, but you can feel that it's coming. I want to talk about some crazy stats that Curry's accomplished recently though. Steph Curry has never been the type of player to put up crazy stat lines in the conventional way. He doesn't need a triple-double every night to prove he's one of the best. His impact on the court goes beyond the numbers, yet when he does drop crazy numbers, it's always special. Let's talk about how he's doing things differently and how his recent performances are rewriting the record books in ways that are pretty rare, even for a legend like him. Let's start with the big one. Steph Curry just joined an exclusive club. The only players in NBA history who've had back-to-back 35-point games at the age of 36 or older are Curry, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan. Yeah, you heard that right. Curry is now in the same sentence as some of the greatest players ever. What makes it even more impressive, it's not just the points he's putting up, it's the way he's doing it. In his most recent 2 games, Curry dropped a mind-blowing 73 points. You can't help but sit back and just admire the skill. But to put up those kinds of numbers while keeping his free throw attempts relatively low, this guy is doing everything. It's just pure basketball at its finest. Now, when you look at his overall game, it's a sight to behold. Only 2 players in the entire league are averaging 28 points and 8 assists per 75 possessions so far this season. And guess who's on that list? Yep, Curry, the other name on that list. Nikola Jokic. That's it. Just those two. That's insane. You know how many players average that type of production in the history of the game? Just those two. Curry's ability to create for others while still putting up big scoring numbers is a big reason why his game is so captivating. He's not just a scorer, he's a playmaker too. And when you look at the stats in another light, Curry is making history in ways that most players could only dream of. Let's take a look at the most 15-point third quarters in NBA history. You know who's at the top of that list? None other than Curry himself, with 101 15-point quarters. That's more than anyone else in the history of the game. Kobe Bryant comes in second with 97, but Curry has that edge. He's the one who's taken over in those big moments. And it's not just Curry. The names that follow him on that list are also legends in their own right. James Harden, LeBron James, and Damian Lillard. But to be clear, it's Curry who sits at number one by a solid margin. That's the type of dominance we're talking about here. When Curry heats up, it's like nothing anyone's ever seen before. Those third quarters are legendary because he takes over in ways that no one else can. Now, let's think about the broader picture of Curry's career. He's one of those players who's just changed the way the game is played, right? He's shifted the entire league's focus to the three-point line. And sure, the three-point shot was around before Curry, but he made it cool. He made it lethal. And now, even in his 30s, he's still dropping ridiculous numbers. You can't just chalk it up to a lucky stretch. This is Curry's game, and he's making history in the process. And even with the changing landscape of the league, with younger players coming up and making their own marks, Curry's still holding his ground. It's crazy to think about how many times we've seen him hit game-winning shots, go on scoring sprees, and show up when the team needs him most. It's like he doesn't even have to try sometimes. It just happens naturally. And when you're talking about pure scoring, the way Curry is able to light up the scoreboard is nothing short of magical. He's a marksman from anywhere on the floor. The deep threes, the pull-up jumpers, the shots off the dribble, all of it is just poetry in motion. He doesn't even need a ton of space to get a shot off. He's mastered the art of creating just enough room to get that clean look at the basket. It's one of the reasons why he's been able to keep doing this at such a high level, even as he ages. But what about his leadership? People often forget how much Curry contributes off the ball too. He's not just out there jacking up threes, he's the engine that keeps the Warriors' offense flowing. His ability to move without the ball, set screens, and make the right pass keeps defenses on their toes. And that's been part of his longevity in the league. It's not just about scoring points, it's about creating opportunities for everyone else too. His playmaking ability is something that doesn't always get the attention it deserves, but it's been a crucial part of his success. And while all of these individual accomplishments are fantastic, let's not forget about Curry's impact on his team. The Warriors have had their ups and downs over the years, but with Curry at the helm, they've always been a threat. Whether it's winning championships or getting close to another one, he's been the glue that's kept everything together. The Warriors' offense revolves around him. When Curry's on the floor, it's a completely different dynamic. Teams have to game plan around him, and even then, it's tough to stop him. Now, you might be wondering, what's next for Curry? As his career continues, it's exciting to think about how much more he can accomplish. He's already done so much. He's revolutionized the game, won multiple MVPs, led his team to championships, and now he's showing no signs of slowing down. Who knows how many more milestones he'll hit before it's all said and done. He's playing like a man who's got plenty left in the tank. The best part is, Curry doesn't rely on one aspect of his game. He's not just a three-point shooter, he's a complete player. From scoring to playmaking, from leadership to defense, Curry does it all. And that's the beauty of his career. He's not a one-trick pony. He's constantly evolving, improving, and adapting. That's why we're all in awe of him. Every time he takes the floor, he does something new and exciting, and we're all lucky to witness it. It's clear that Curry is continuing to write his legacy in real time. His recent performances and milestones are just another chapter in a career that's already been full of unforgettable moments. He's a player who doesn't just break records, he creates his own. As he keeps adding to his legend, we'll be right here, watching and appreciating every step of the way. Curry's not just about the numbers, but when those numbers come, they speak for themselves, and they're speaking loud and clear. And there's even more. Now, let's get into something that is seriously impressive. Curry is the oldest point guard in NBA history to have back-to-back 30-point game. That's right. He's now officially the OG when it comes to putting up huge scoring numbers at an age where most players are either winding down or already done. And guess who else is in the conversation when it comes to scoring 30 points? None other than Kareem and LeBron James. Curry has the most 30-point games with less than 5 free throw attempts in NBA history. 111 games to be exact. The next closest, Kareem with 93, then LeBron with 74. Curry's efficiency is unmatched, and just the other night, he dropped 36 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, while hitting 7 3-pointers. That's the type of game that makes you stop and think. This guy isn't slowing down anytime soon. That performance marked his 99th career game with at least 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 3-point. That's a stat that only a handful of players can even dream about. Curry's breaking records left and right, and it's crazy to think that he's still getting better. When you talk about Curry's game, you have to mention his ability to impact the game in a limited amount of time. He's got the 6th most games in NBA history with 20 or more points in less than 30 minutes of play. That's right, Curry doesn't need to be out there for 35 or 40 minutes to drop big numbers. In fact, his game is so efficient that he doesn't even need a ton of time to make an impact. That's part of what makes him such a dangerous player. He can change the entire game in just a few minutes of play. Curry's shooting this season has been nothing short of spectacular as well. He's only 8th in the league in 3-point attempts per game, which is crazy because this is the same guy who revolutionized the 3-point shot. Curry hasn't attempted this few of threes per game since all the way back in 2015, yet he's still among the best shooters in the game, making a huge impact despite taking fewer attempts. And just to put this into perspective, Curry's made a record 134 games with 7 or more threes in NBA history. That's more than the next 3 players combined. You can't deny that he's the greatest shooter of all time. Now let's talk about defense for a second, because Curry's defense doesn't get enough love. He's in the top 5 for most steals per game, and he's also top 5 in blocks per game for a point guard. Yeah, you heard that right. He's not just about offense. Curry's defense has improved over the years, and it's becoming a bigger part of his game. The fact that players are shooting just 34% when guarded by him this season is a testament to his defensive tenacity. He's out there getting it done on both ends of the floor, making him even more of a complete player. And let's not forget about his plus-minus numbers this season. Curry has the most games with a plus 20 plus-minus, showing just how valuable he is to his team. Whenever he's on the floor, the Warriors are a completely different team. His presence on the court makes everyone else better, and that's one of the reasons why they rely on him so heavily. Curry's impact on the game goes beyond the box score. Speaking of his incredible scoring, Curry has also had some crazy performances in recent games. In fact, the most points scored over the last 2 games belongs to, yep, you guessed it, Steph Curry with 73 points. And what's even more impressive, he did it with just 7 free throws. That's insane. Compare that to LaMelo Ball, who also scored 73, but with 9 free throws. Or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who put up 69 points, but with 27 free throws. Curry's efficiency is on another level, and he just keeps getting it done game after game. Let's face it, Steph Curry's stats are anything but ordinary. Sure, he may not always have the gaudy triple-doubles or the crazy rebounding numbers like some other stars, but that's not what makes him so special. His ability to impact the game in so many different ways while maintaining such a high level of efficiency is what separates him from everyone else. Curry's not about filling up the stat sheet just to do it. He's about winning games and making his team better while doing it. He's redefining what it means to be a scoring guard in the NBA. His shooting range, ability to make plays, and leadership on and off the court make him one of the most unique players the league has ever seen. Curry doesn't need to rack up a million stats to prove his greatness. His game speaks for itself. He's one of the most dangerous offensive players the NBA has ever seen, and his stats are just a small part of what makes him so impactful. It's wild to think that even as he gets older, Curry is still putting up insane numbers and breaking records. He's not slowing down at all. Instead of fading into the background like many players do in their 30s, Curry is still at the top of his game, pushing boundaries and setting new standards for excellence in the league. So even if his stats don't always blow you away in the traditional sense, just know this: Curry's impact on the game is unparalleled. I mean, look what he did versus the Thunder 2 games ago. Steph Curry was absolutely on fire against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Golden State Warriors capped off a phenomenal road trip. OKC had been one of the most dangerous teams in the league, sitting at an 8-1 record, and this was a huge test for the Warriors, especially at the tail end of a long road trip. But let me tell you, Curry made sure they went out with a bang. Curry played a monster 36 minutes and put up 36 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. He also added 1 steal and 1 block to his stat line. Oh, and did I mention he shot 13 for 23 from the field? Yep, that's right. He was hitting almost 57% of his shots. He also knocked down 7 out of 13 threes, which is insane. And let's not forget, he made 3 out of 4 free throws, finishing the night with a crazy 72.7% true shooting. Talk about a superstar performance. Now let's talk about that third quarter. Curry was ridiculous. He put up 17 points in the third quarter alone. That was the moment when it felt like the game was really starting to slip away from the Thunder. The Warriors won that quarter 42-21, and Curry's scoring was a huge part of that. He was hitting tough shots, sure, but the most impressive thing was how consistently he was able to get clean looks against a defense that, by the way, is ranked number 1 in the league in defensive rating. That's how you know Curry's greatness is something else. He was getting his shots off even against a defense that's known for being active, athletic, and tough. Of course, the Thunder weren't just going to roll over. They made a push, and the lead started to slip a bit. But that didn't faze Curry at all. When he re-entered the game in the fourth quarter, he immediately got the offense back on track. It was like he put a tourniquet on the bleeding and made sure there was no way the Warriors were going to blow this game. Curry just has that ability to stabilize a team when they need him most, and he did exactly that, making sure the Warriors had a comfortable lead by the time they headed back home. Curry really put on a show, leading the Warriors in points, and honestly, this could easily be considered his best game of the year. He didn't just get the job done, he put on a clinic against one of the toughest defenses in the league. And remember, this was against an OKC squad that's been dominating all year. Curry's performance was a reminder of why he's considered one of the greatest players of all time. Say somehow, either Curry wins MVP or the Warriors win their 5th championship in the Curry era. Steph Curry's legacy is already cemented as one of the greatest to ever play the game, but imagine if he won a 3rd MVP or a 5th championship. These 2 accomplishments would add so much to his already impressive career, and here's why. Let's start with the MVP. Curry has already won 2 MVPs, one in the 2015 season and another in the 2016 season. The thing about MVPs is they aren't just a reflection of an individual season. They represent dominance and excellence over an entire year. And Curry has done it twice, putting him in an exclusive club with legends like Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, and LeBron James. But if he were to win a 3rd MVP, that would push him into rarefied air. Winning 3 MVPs would put him in a category with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Moses Malone, each of whom won 3 during their careers. But it wouldn't just be the number of MVPs that would boost Curry's legacy. A 3rd MVP would solidify him as one of the most dominant and consistent players in NBA history. Think about it. LeBron James, who is often seen as one of the greatest players of all time, only has 4 MVPs. Curry has already proven he can lead the league and take home the trophy twice. But a 3rd MVP would really show that his impact on the game can extend for more than just a couple of seasons. What's really exciting is that Curry's playing at an age where many thought his best years were behind him. If he wins a 3rd MVP, it would challenge the narrative that players decline after certain age, proving that he's still at the top of his game. This isn't just about his individual stats, it's about his leadership, his ability to elevate his team, and the fact that he's still one of the most feared players in the league, even as time moves on. The 3rd MVP wouldn't just be a check mark on his resume, it would be a statement. Curry is still an all-time great and can be the best in the league, even as his career continues to progress. Now, let's talk about winning a 5th championship. If Curry were to secure his 5th championship, he'd join the likes of Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Magic Johnson, who all have 5 titles. That would put him just 1 title behind Michael Jordan and Kareem, who each have 6. But it's not just about catching up to these legends. It's about what a 5th championship would represent in the context of today's game. Winning 5 titles would solidify Curry's place among the elite, especially since there's a lot of debate over who belongs in the top 5 greatest players of all time conversation. A 5th championship would be an undeniable argument for Curry's spot in that group. But beyond just the numbers, there's the fact that Curry revolutionized the game with his shooting. His ability to hit threes from anywhere on the court has changed the way the game is played. If he wins a 5th championship, it's not just a testament to his skill, it's a statement about his influence on the entire sport. Curry has already proved that he can win a championship in every situation. He's done it with a team-oriented approach where no player is too big to contribute. His leadership has been unmatched, and his ability to rise to the occasion during critical moments has been key to the Warriors' success. A 5th title would elevate him to the next level of NBA greatness, and it would also give him bragging rights over LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal, both of whom have 4 championships. That would be a huge feather in his cap, especially considering the incredible teams LeBron and Shaq were a part of. Now, let's consider the impact that winning a 3rd MVP or a 5th championship would have on Curry's overall legacy. He's already made history with his incredible shooting, his MVP wins, and his championships. But these 2 feats would make him impossible to ignore in the GOAT conversation. Sure, there's always debate about who is the best player of all time, but adding either of these achievements would make it even harder for anyone to deny Curry's place as one of the all-time greats. A third MVP would give Curry a stronger case for being the best point guard to ever play the game, which is a debate that's been floating around for years. He's already in the conversation with Magic Johnson and Oscar Robertson, but winning a third MVP would almost certainly push him over the top in that discussion. He'd have the numbers, the accolades, and the influence to claim that title for himself. A fifth championship would give him more than just bragging rights. It would make it clear that he's done it all, won as the best player, led his team, and influenced the game in ways no one else had. This would put him on a tier with the greatest players ever, and there would be little argument about where he stands in the all-time ranking. It's not just about the rings, though. Curry's impact on the game goes far beyond what he's done with the Warriors. He's changed the NBA and how it's played, and that's a legacy that can't be matched. Ultimately, whether it's a third MVP or a fifth championship, either one would be a monumental boost to Curry's legacy. The impact of these accomplishments would extend far beyond his career. They'd be the defining moments that solidify Curry as one of the all-time greats. He's already achieved so much, but these two potential feats would take his legacy to a whole new level, ensuring that he'll be remembered as one of the best to ever play the game. Overall, though, Curry has been absolutely electric to watch these past few games. The way he's been playing, it's like he's just getting started. And if this is only the beginning of his season, they're in for something special. He's been draining shots from everywhere, slicing through defenses, and making it look so effortless. Whether it's hitting threes from way beyond the arc or pulling off insane finishes at the rim, Curry has been on another level, and it's a joy to watch every time he steps on the floor. If this is what Curry's got early in the season, just imagine what he could do when he really heats up. The Warriors are looking dangerous, and Curry's leadership is only going to elevate the entire team. He's not just playing at a high level, he's making the game fun. With his shooting, his vision, and his ability to create for his teammates, it's clear Curry is on a mission to remind everyone why he's one of the best players to ever play the game. If this is just the warm-up, then it's going to be one incredible season ahead. I can't wait to see how much further he can take it. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.